room was built for men who believed secrets belonged to them. Inside one of Manhattan's most exclusive private clubs, powerful figures gathered beneath crystal chandeliers, surrounded by luxury, wealth, and carefully hidden danger. Expensive suits filled the room. Security guards watched every entrance. Every person at the table had influence, money, or a reputation strong enough to make others afraid. Then the doors opened. A beautiful woman walked inside. The conversation stopped. Everyone looked toward her, expecting hesitation. They expected someone who understood she had entered a world where mistakes had consequences. But Sienna Blake did not look afraid. She walked forward with confidence, carrying herself like she belonged there. To everyone watching, she was simply another woman trying to gain the attention of the most powerful man in the room. They believed she had entered to charm the mafia boss. Nobody knew she had entered to steal his secrets. Before stepping into that dangerous world, Sienna had spent years learning how people worked. She was intelligent, ambitious, and emotionally controlled. While others focused on what people said, she studied what they avoided saying. She noticed expressions, body language, and small details that revealed hidden intentions. Sienna understood one important truth. The most valuable information was rarely found in documents. It was found in people. Her ability to read others made her perfect for the mission she accepted. She was not searching for money, luxury, or power. Her reason was personal. For years, unanswered questions surrounded her family's past. Missing records, hidden names, and unexplained events convinced her that someone had buried the truth. The only person connected to those answers was Alexander Voss. Sienna believed getting close to him was the only way to uncover what had been hidden from her. She had been trained to observe, collect information, and manipulate situations without revealing her true intentions. Every movement was calculated. Every expression was controlled. But she was about to discover that entering Alexander Voss's world meant stepping into a game where both sides knew how to hide. Alexander Voss was not just another criminal leader. He was the man people whispered about when discussing power in New York. Young, attractive, and intimidating, Alexander had built his empire through discipline and control. His tall, muscular frame, calm personality, and sharp instincts made him impossible to ignore. His enemies feared his decisions, while his organization respected his loyalty. He lived surrounded by luxury, powerful allies, and constant threats. Nobody entered his world without a reason. That was why Sienna immediately caught his attention. During their first meeting, she used confidence and charm to appear like someone interested in him personally. To everyone around them, it looked like another woman trying to get closer to a powerful man. But Alexander noticed something different. She was too calm, too observant, too prepared. Most people changed when they stood near him. They became nervous, careful, or desperate for approval. Sienna did not. She looked at him like she was studying him. And Alexander Voss knew one thing better than anyone. A person hiding a secret was always more dangerous than a person carrying a weapon. Sienna believed her plan was working. She believed she had successfully entered Alexander's private world. What she did not know was that Alexander had already discovered her real identity and had been watching her from the very beginning. The most dangerous mistake Sienna Blake made was believing she was the only person hiding a secret. She entered Alexander Voss's world believing she was a hunter. She was wrong. The man she was sent to investigate had been studying her from the moment she walked through his doors. Alexander had built his empire by recognizing threats before they became disasters. He did not survive because he trusted easily. He survived because he noticed what others ignored. And Sienna Blake was impossible to ignore. To everyone else, she appeared confident, charming, and intelligent. But Alexander saw details hidden beneath her carefully created identity. The way she positioned herself near exits, the way her eyes scanned a room before she relaxed, the way she remembered conversations almost perfectly. Those were not the habits of an ordinary woman trying to enter a powerful man's life. They were the habits of someone trained, someone with a purpose. But Alexander did not expose her. That decision surprised even the people closest to him. Most enemies who entered his world never received a second chance. Alexander believed hidden intentions were more dangerous than open attacks. Yet with Sienna, something was different. He wanted to understand her. Anger told him to remove the threat. Curiosity told him to discover the truth. The difference between a mistake and a strategy was information, and Alexander needed to know which one Sienna represented. His trusted strategist, Ethan Calloway, began investigating her background immediately. Ethan had spent years protecting Alexander from betrayal. He understood that dangerous people rarely announce themselves. They appeared ordinary, harmless, and trustworthy until the damage was already done. But Sienna's history created more questions than answers. Her records existed, but important details were missing. Previous addresses had unexplained gaps. Certain documents had been altered. Her identity appeared real, yet someone had carefully removed pieces of her past. Someone powerful had protected her secret. Alexander decided to test her. Instead of confronting her directly, he began creating situations designed to reveal her intentions. He shared false information during private conversations and watched carefully to see whether those details reached his enemies. Each time, he expected confirmation of his suspicion, but nothing happened. Sienna never exposed the information. She never used it against him. Instead, she unknowingly passed every test Alexander created. That was the moment his suspicion became something more complicated. Respect. Alexander realized Sienna was not simply following orders. She was intelligent enough to understand the game around her, and that made her more dangerous. It also made her impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Sienna believed she was successfully controlling the situation. She thought Alexander saw only what she wanted him to see. She believed her charm was distracting him. She did not realize he was allowing her to continue, because he wanted to discover who was behind her. The more Alexander observed her, the more confused he became. She was connected to danger, but she did not behave like a dangerous person. She was hiding something, but she did not seem willing to hurt innocent people. Sienna had expected Alexander Voss to be nothing more than a ruthless criminal. Instead, she found a man who protected his people, followed his own rules, and understood betrayal better than anyone. That discovery created a dangerous conflict inside her. The closer she got to Alexander, the harder it became to remember that he was supposed to be her target. Then Ethan returned with a file he had uncovered from an old rival organization. Inside was a hidden name connected to Sienna's past, a name that changed everything. The woman standing beside Alexander Voss was connected to the person who once tried to destroy his entire empire. She entered Alexander Voss's world with one purpose: to destroy him. But the closer Sienna Blake came to the man she was supposed to expose, the harder it became to remember why she had entered his life in the first place. The plan had always been simple: gain his trust, discover his weaknesses, collect enough information to bring down the most powerful mafia boss in the city. But nothing about Alexander Voss was simple. Sienna's mission began months before she ever stepped inside his empire. She was recruited by Adrian Blackwood, a man who had spent years building a reputation through influence, manipulation, and revenge. Adrian knew Alexander better than most enemies did. He understood how carefully Alexander protected his organization. He knew how difficult it was to get close to a man who trusted almost nobody. That was why Sienna was chosen. She was not sent because she was the strongest. She was sent because she was different. Alexander noticed people who wanted power. He noticed people who wanted money. But he rarely noticed someone who appeared to want nothing for herself. Adrian believed Sienna could become the one person Alexander would allow close enough to reveal his secrets. Her mission was to collect everything: financial records, private agreements, hidden alliances, personal weaknesses, every piece of information that could be used to destroy Alexander Voss. But what Adrian never expected was that Sienna would begin questioning the story she had been given. For years, she believed Alexander was the villain. She believed the rumors. She believed the stories about a man who built an empire through fear and controlled everyone around him. But after spending time beside him, she discovered a different reality. Alexander was dangerous. There was no denying that. He had enemies because he was powerful, and he made decisions that most people would never understand. But Sienna also saw the parts nobody talked about. She saw him protect people who could not protect themselves. She saw him reward loyalty instead of demanding it. She saw moments where the man behind the reputation appeared far more human than the monster described by his enemies. That discovery created a conflict she never expected. Her mission required her to see Alexander as a target. Her instincts were beginning to see him as a person. Meanwhile, Alexander continued pretending he knew nothing about her true intentions. He allowed Sienna to move closer. He allowed her to ask questions. He allowed her access to parts of his world that would normally remain hidden, not because he trusted her completely, because he wanted to discover who was controlling her. Alexander understood that Sienna was not acting alone. Someone had placed her there, someone powerful enough to create a plan against him. But as he watched her struggle between loyalty and doubt, his suspicions slowly became mixed with something far more dangerous. Concern. The same woman who came to uncover his weaknesses was becoming someone he wanted to protect. Sienna felt the change too. Every moment near Alexander made her mission harder. Every truth she discovered about him created more questions about the people who sent her. Then one night, while searching through hidden files connected to Adrian Blackwood, Sienna found recordings she was never supposed to hear. She expected to discover Alexander's secrets. Instead, she discovered the truth about her own mission. Adrian never wanted information from Alexander Voss. He wanted Sienna to become the weapon that destroyed him. The biggest betrayal was not discovering who Alexander Voss's enemy was. It was discovering why Sienna Blake had been chosen for the mission. For weeks, Sienna believed she understood her role. She thought she was simply an intelligent operative sent to collect information from a powerful man. She believed Adrian Blackwood had chosen her because of her skills, her ability to read people, and her talent for staying unnoticed. But the truth was far more personal. Sienna was not chosen because she was useful. She was chosen because of who she was. After discovering Adrian's hidden recording, Sienna began searching through files connected to her own past. She expected to find information about Alexander. Instead, she found pieces of a history that had been hidden from her entire life. Old documents, family records, names that had been removed from official reports. The deeper she searched, the more she realized someone had carefully controlled what she knew about herself. Her childhood memories had missing pieces. Important events had been rewritten. People who once knew her family had disappeared without explanation. Sienna had spent years believing she was searching for the truth. She never realized the truth had been hidden from her intentionally. Adrian Blackwood had not simply recruited her. He had shaped her understanding of the world. He gave her a version of the past where Alexander Voss was the enemy and Adrian was a person offering answers. But the documents revealed a different story. Sienna's family had been connected to the old conflict between Alexander and Adrian. Years earlier, choices made during that war changed the lives of both families. Adrian knew Sienna's connection. He knew exactly what information would make her hate Alexander, and he used that pain as a foundation of his plan. When Alexander discovered the complete truth, his reaction was not what Sienna expected. He was angry, not because she had entered his world as a spy, but because he realized someone had used her against her own will. For the first time, Alexander saw Sienna differently. She was not just the enemy's weapon. She was also a victim of the same manipulation that had destroyed countless lives before her. But accepting that truth was not easy. Alexander had built his entire empire by trusting his instincts. He believed hidden intentions were always dangerous, and he had spent years eliminating threats before they could reach him. Sienna was the one person who challenged that belief. She had deceived him, but she had also risked everything to reveal the truth. She had the opportunity to continue Adrian's plan. Instead, she chose to expose it. That choice mattered more to Alexander than her past. Sienna proved that blood, history, and family connections did not decide loyalty. Choices did. As Alexander and Sienna worked together to uncover Adrian's remaining plans, they discovered they were both being hunted. Adrian's followers viewed Sienna as a traitor and Alexander as the final obstacle standing in their way. The enemy they once faced separately had now united them. But Adrian Blackwood was not finished. He finally revealed the secret he had protected for years. Sienna had never been sent into Alexander Voss's world only to steal his secrets. She had been placed there because she was the final piece of a revenge plan created long before she ever knew his name. Alexander Voss had spent his entire life destroying enemies before they became dangerous. He built his empire on control, discipline, and the ability to remove every threat standing in his way. But now he was protecting the one person who entered his world with the intention of betraying him. Sienna Blake, after Adrian Blackwood revealed that Sienna had been part of his revenge plan, everyone inside Alexander's organization expected the same outcome. They expected Alexander to see her as an enemy. They expected punishment. They expected the mafia boss to do what he had always done, eliminate the threat. But Alexander made a choice that surprised everyone. He protected her. The decision confused even his closest allies. Ethan Calloway struggled to understand why Alexander would risk his reputation and security for a woman connected to their greatest enemy. In their world, trust was not created through emotions. It was earned through actions. And Sienna's actions had begun proving something her past could not explain. She had a chance to complete Adrian's plan. She could have delivered Alexander's secrets. She could have disappeared before anyone discovered the truth. Instead, she exposed a man who manipulated her. Alexander understood the difference. Sienna did not choose betrayal. She was placed inside a war created by people who controlled her life before she understood what was happening. Punishing her would mean allowing Adrian Blackwood to win one more time. Alexander refused to give his enemy that satisfaction. For the first time, the mafia boss used his power not to destroy someone. He used it to protect someone. He moved Sienna to a secure location, increased the security around her, and made it clear that anyone trying to reach her would have to face his entire organization. But there was one thing Alexander refused to do. He refused to control her. Adrian had manipulated Sienna by hiding the truth and shaping her choices. Alexander chose a different path. He gave her information. He gave her freedom. He allowed her to decide what she wanted to do with the truth she discovered. That difference slowly changed the way Sienna saw him. For the first time, she understood that power did not always mean control. Sometimes power meant protecting someone without demanding anything in return. Still, Sienna struggled with guilt. She knew her presence had brought danger into Alexander's world. She knew enemies were attacking because of the secrets connected to her. She wondered if leaving would make everyone safer. But Alexander never treated her like a problem. He treated her like someone fighting to correct the damage done to her. As time passed, Ethan began changing his opinion as well. The man who once believed Sienna was the biggest risk inside Alexander's empire started noticing the truth. She was not trying to escape responsibility. She was helping them uncover Adrian's remaining plans. Her knowledge became one of their greatest advantages. She understood Adrian's methods, his strategies, and the way he manipulated people from the shadows. The woman who was sent to spy on Alexander was now helping protect his empire. And slowly, Sienna realized something that changed everything. Alexander Voss was not the monster she had been told about. He was a man shaped by betrayal, carrying the weight of every decision he had made to survive. But just when Sienna began believing they had found the truth, another secret appeared. Someone inside Alexander's own organization had been secretly sharing information with Adrian Blackwood, someone close enough to know every plan, someone Alexander trusted completely. Some wars begin with hatred. Others begin because someone powerful creates a lie and convinces everyone to fight for it. For years, Alexander Voss believed his war with Adrian Blackwood was a battle between two men fighting for control. He believed Adrian wanted his empire, his influence, his position as the most powerful mafia boss in the city. But the truth hidden beneath their rivalry was far more dangerous. It was built on manipulation. After discovering the traitor inside his organization, Alexander realized the enemy had been closer than he ever imagined. Adrian had not simply attacked from outside. He had spent years creating weaknesses from within. Instead of reacting with anger, Alexander searched for the truth. And this time, he trusted Sienna Blake to help him find it. Together, they uncovered hidden documents that had remained buried for years. Old agreements, forgotten records, private communications between powerful figures who had shaped the conflict from the beginning. The information changed everything Alexander believed. The war between him and Adrian did not begin because of ambition. It began because of betrayal. Years earlier, Alexander and Adrian had once respected each other. They understood the same dangerous world and shared similar goals. Both men believed they were building something powerful. but their beliefs separated them. Alexander believed loyalty was the foundation of strength. Adrian believed control was the only way to survive. When Adrian saw an opportunity to gain more power, he sacrificed everything standing in his way. He destroyed alliances, manipulated families, and created enemies where none existed. But the biggest revelation shocked Alexander. He had been manipulated too. For years, Adrian had carefully shaped the conflict between them. He made Alexander believe he was fighting a direct enemy, while secretly controlling the events from the shadows. The Mafia war that destroyed countless lives was not a battle between two equal rivals. It was a plan created by one man who wanted both sides weakened. For the first time, Alexander questioned every decision he had made. The most dangerous enemy was not always the person standing against you. Sometimes it was the person who convinced you that you were fighting the right enemy. Sienna experienced her own transformation during the investigation. The woman who entered Alexander's world as a spy was gone. She was no longer searching for information to complete someone else's mission. She was searching for the truth. She finally understood that Adrian never cared about her future. He cared about using her pain, her identity, and her unanswered questions as weapons. Sienna was not Adrian's creation. She was not a piece in his revenge. She was a person who could choose her own path. Alexander noticed a change. He no longer saw Sienna as the woman connected to his enemy. He saw someone who had survived the same manipulation he had. For the first time, Alexander trusted her completely. He shared information that only his closest allies knew. He allowed her access to the hidden parts of his organization and trusted her judgment when making decisions that could change everything. Together, they discovered evidence that could finally destroy Adrian Blackwood. Secret accounts, hidden alliances, proof of years of deception. Everything Adrian built was beginning to collapse. But as Sienna studied the final documents, she discovered something that changed the meaning of the entire war. The conflict was never truly about Alexander Voss. The Mafia empire was never Adrian's only target. The entire war had always been about using Sienna. The most dangerous enemy was never the person holding a weapon. It was the person standing closest with a smile. For Alexander Voss, betrayal had always been more dangerous than open war. Enemies outside his organization were easy to understand. They showed their intentions through threats, attacks, and challenges. But a traitor inside his own empire was different. They knew the weaknesses. They knew the secrets. They knew exactly where to strike. After discovering Adrian Blackwood's final plan, Alexander understood that the last battle was no longer about territory, money, or power. It was about ending a cycle of revenge that had destroyed countless lives, especially Sienna's. Adrian had spent years preparing for this moment. He created hidden alliances, placed loyal followers in important positions, and waited patiently for the perfect opportunity to break Alexander's empire from within. He believed Sienna was the final weapon he needed. He believed her connection to him would force Alexander to lose control. But Adrian misunderstood the one thing that made Sienna different. She was no longer the woman he manipulated. She was no longer the spy searching for secrets. She had become someone who could see the truth. When Adrian launched his final attack, chaos spread through Alexander's organization. Secure locations were exposed. Private information was leaked. Trusted members suddenly turned against the empire they once protected. The hidden traitor was finally revealed. It was someone who had stood beside Alexander for years. Someone who knew his strategies, his decisions, and his weaknesses. The betrayal damaged the organization, but it did not destroy Alexander. Because, unlike Adrian, Alexander had learned something important. Power was not built by controlling everyone around you. It was built by knowing who would remain when everything fell apart. As the final confrontation approached, Alexander made a decision that shocked everyone. He placed Sienna's safety above his empire. For years, Alexander Voss had protected his position above everything else. His reputation, influence, and organization were the foundation of his identity. But now he was willing to risk all of it for one person. Sienna struggled with that decision. She knew Alexander was putting everything he built in danger because of her. She knew her connection to Adrian had brought destruction into his world. A part of her wanted to leave, to disappear, to end the conflict by removing herself from it. But she finally understood something important. Running away would only allow Adrian to control her again. For most of her life, other people had decided who she was. Adrian saw her as a weapon. Her enemies saw her as an opportunity. But Alexander saw her as a person. Sienna chose to stay. Not because she owed Alexander anything. Not because she needed protection. Because she finally chose her own side. Together, Alexander and Sienna prepared for the final battle. Alexander brought the strength of his empire. Sienna brought the one thing Adrian never expected. The truth hidden inside his own plan. Every betrayal. Every secret alliance. Every manipulation. They were all connected to one weakness Adrian never noticed. He believed Sienna's past would control her future. He believed she would always be the daughter of his revenge. As Adrian stood believing victory was already guaranteed, Sienna stepped forward with the information that would destroy everything he created. The secret hidden inside his own plan was finally revealed. The woman who entered Alexander Voss's world as a spy became the only person powerful enough to change the mafia boss. For years, Alexander believed strength came from control. Control over enemies. Control over information. Control over emotions. He built his empire by keeping everyone at a distance, believing that trust created weakness and attachment created danger. But Sienna Blake changed everything. The final confrontation with Adrian Blackwood was not just a battle between two powerful enemies. It was the end of a war created by years of manipulation, betrayal, and revenge. Adrian believed he had created the perfect plan. He believed Sienna's connection to him would always control her choices. He believed the pain from her past would force her to become the weapon he needed. But Adrian made one mistake. He underestimated the person Sienna had become. When Sienna revealed the hidden truth inside Adrian's plan, everything he built began collapsing. The secret alliances were exposed. The hidden operations were uncovered. The people who followed him for power realized they had been nothing more than pieces in his revenge. The man who spent years controlling others finally lost control of the one person he believed belonged to him. Sienna. Adrian's downfall did not come because someone stronger defeated him. It came because the person he manipulated the most refused to become what he wanted. She rejected his revenge. She rejected the identity he created for her. She chose her own future. The traitor inside Alexander's organization also faced the consequences of his betrayal. The person who believed choosing Adrian's side would guarantee power discovered that loyalty built on greed never survives. Once the truth was revealed, the respect and protection he depended on disappeared. He became a reminder that betrayal may create temporary opportunities, but it always destroys trust in the end. After the war ended, Alexander faced the most important decision of his life. He could return to the man he had always been, a leader who trusted nobody. A man who believed fear was the only way to maintain power. Or he could accept the lesson Sienna had shown him. Real strength was not found in controlling everyone around you. It was found in knowing who deserved your trust. Alexander chose differently. He rebuilt his empire with stronger loyalty, clearer principles, and a different understanding of power. He remained a feared and respected mafia boss, but he no longer allowed suspicion to control every decision. The man who once believed emotions were dangerous discovered that the right person could make him stronger. Sienna also accepted her identity. She was connected to Adrian Blackwood. She carried the history of his actions. But she was not responsible for his choices. She was not his weapon. She was not a piece in someone else's revenge. She was Sienna Blake, the woman who entered a dangerous world to steal secrets and discovered the power of choosing her own path. Her journey was never about becoming like the people who controlled her. It was about realizing that she had always possessed the strength to control her own destiny. Alexander and Sienna changed each other. He learned that trust was not always a weakness. She learned that opening her heart did not always lead to betrayal. Together, they proved that family was not only created through blood. Sometimes it was created through loyalty, choice, and the people who stood beside you when everything else fell apart. Years later, people still told the story of Sienna Blake, not because she entered the mafia boss's life to steal his secrets, but because she became the only person who made Alexander Voss trust again.